Okay, I'm going to quickly cover a PowerPoint that I used to give in Comp 1, and I still do, and I remember to, and I've modified it slightly for your benefit. Really quickly, just covering the structure of an essay you guys already know: introduction, body, conclusion, and then a typical outline would look like this. And of course, your opposing argument and refutation would be somewhere in your body paragraphs. And remember, you use as many body paragraphs as you need to. That's how many points you are arguing. If you need help on the introduction, there are pages that in a writer's reference that cover those, and also thesis statements. And then body paragraphs, I've given you some old graphics here to help you if you get stuck. So a body paragraph should be focused on one main idea and include a combination of information and explanation. You are giving a point and you are supporting the point. You can think of it as a piece of pie: point, information, explanation. And then if you need some pointers, here are some little notes for you. This is if you get stuck, or to generate some ideas for your body paragraphs. When we get into research in your term paper, the parts where you reference sources, that will become in the I, the information part. An explanation is how you tie all of your ideas together and interpret the information. You can find information on conclusions on page 18. So what I really wanted to show you were these common errors in freshman English. So this may seem a little picky to some of you, but using you, Y-O-U. So technically it's second person point of view because it indicates a specific audience. And there are times when we need to use you, but not in this class. You are practicing academic writing, and I want you to follow all the rules. So it's hard because we speak this way, okay? You just don't ever know when you're going to need a first aid kit. We say you all the time, but in writing I want you to revise it to get rid of it. You can say a person never knows when he or she will need a first aid kit. Sometimes you can just revise in other ways that you don't even use the pronoun at all. A common problem is pronouns, and it was with this first paper. So a lot of you got some markings on comma issues. So the problems there are two different problems: reference and number. And these also can cause problems with subject-verb agreement. And by reference, I mean that a pronoun either does not accurately indicate its antecedent or the pronoun is vague. So the hospital said their policy was to keep all shot records confidential. This is another problem because we are always calling institutions and organizations they and their, and it's not. A hospital is not a they are not people, it's an institution. So you have to fix it. The hospital said its policy was to keep all shot records confidential. Don't say Tom and Sheila told the boys they were going to the beach. They is vague here because we don't know if Tom and Sheila are the ones going to the beach or the boys are. So you need to make sure that whenever you use a pronoun, it is very clear what you were talking about. And this particular sentence can be clarified by putting in quotes: Tom and Sheila told the boys you are going to the beach. Now the next issue, so that was reference. This one has to do with number, and because we do this all the time. A child is singular and there is plural. There, they is plural, and you can't have that. You have to match up. So in this particular example, a child is only as good as their upbringing. It's inaccurate. It's ungrammatical. You can fix it by saying a child is only as good as his or her upbringing, or children are only as good as their upbringings. And note how this plays into subject-verb agreement here, and then we have to do a plural on the upbringings. One really confusing point about this is indefinite pronouns, and if you'll go look at the list of those in G1 and E or G3A, I'm not sure exactly where the list is, you're going to think, what? These are singular? Yes, and so that causes a problem. So everybody is an indefinite pronoun, and it sounds like a ton of people, and so it's just automatic for us to say they, and that is actually inaccurate. Everybody in the class thought he, she deserved an A. Okay, so fragments is another really common problem in freshman English. You have to have a subject and a verb for a group of words to be a sentence. You have a whole section on fragments. Here's an example. The young boy had too much energy to sit still through the opera, period. Through no fault of his own. Through no fault of his own is just a phrase. It needs to have its own subject verb if it's going to be a sentence. One easy way to fix fragments is to attach them to either the previous sentence or the following. Through no fault of his own, comma, the young boy had too much energy to sit still through the opera. Sometimes fragments are used for emphasis, and I will allow the occasional one when it's obvious. I did allow a couple on this first essay because they worked, but just understand what a fragment is and that they are not acceptable generally. The opposite of fragments are run-ons, and this is when we have taken two sentences and just pushed them together without proper punctuation. So the classic run-on, which gets a error code of 25, the air freshener was too strong, it made me sick. The problem here is that air freshener is one subject and was is a verb. It is another subject and made is a verb, and so we can't do that. Another thing we can't do is just add a comma here, because that's called a comma splice. It's an example of a run-on, and that is error code 26. So we have to fix these in a variety of ways. We can say the air freshener was too strong and use a semicolon. The air freshener was too strong, period, and start a new sentence with it made me sick. Or we can use a coordinating conjunction and comma with so. Alright, so commas are like the number one. So if you're looking for the number one issue in all of writing in general, not just freshman English, it is commas. Our first use of them is to use them to separate items, and I'm insisting that you use the Oxford comma, which is the comma after the next to last item. So you'll see here why this is important. So don't. Johnny left money to his two ex-wives, Philip and Dave. Here's the problem. Philip and Dave are not the names of his ex-wives, but here, which would be really weird if they were, right? But here we're left guessing if Philip and Dave are the two ex-wives. It's an easy fix just to make sure that you always put the last comma in. Johnny left money to his two ex-wives, Philip and Dave. Oh, 4 people are getting money. We use commas after introductory clauses and sentences, so I marked these a lot for this first essay. In the event of emergency, please use the nearest exit. We use commas before coordinating conjunctions. I gave the soda to the boy, comma, and he spilled it on the floor. Note that this is a coordinating conjunction. We have a separate subject and verb happening here, so it makes it appropriate. But when we do not have a new subject, then we don't add a comma. The boy sipped the soda and spilled it on the floor. All we have there is a compound verb, and so we don't use multiple commas there. We don't use any commas there. Okay, other punctuation. Semicolons, we use those in the same way we would periods. John spent his money on the bicycle. He had won and won for years. John spent his money on the bicycle, period. He'd won and won for years. And all you're doing, you use them like if you're wanting to continue a thought and you don't feel like, a separate sentence is warranted. The other time we use them, which is not going to be very common for you all, I don't think, is when we have multiple commas happening. And here's an example of that. The job requirements included the ability to use Microsoft Word, Excel, and Publisher, availability for travel, dedication to the company, and excellent customer service skills. So because we had these extra commas here, we were able to use a semicolon, and it's acting like as a comma in that point. When showing dialogue, here we go. I need you all to pay close attention to this. Include the end punctuation within the quotation marks. So, John screamed, "Get out of my way." Notice that the exclamation point comes inside the quotation marks. If you are quoting a source, though, you put the period after the in-text citation. So, according to the article, comma, crime doesn't pay. Notice that the period is not here because we are including source information here. I also went ahead and this is APA. So, Jones, 2011, page 23. Get used to seeing this right now. In APA, we have to include the year with the author. Okay, unless there is some other form of punctuation originally used. So here we go. This is on your only exceptions. According to the article, crime doesn't pay. If they use an exclamation point in the article, then you would go ahead and include it. But no, you still have your period here. At no point are you going to have a period here and a period here. Never, ever will use the period in both spots. All right, final thoughts. The sections A, S, P, and G in a writer's reference are helpful if you need to study those. Also, of course, pay attention to the error codes in your own essay and study what you need to. Everybody's going to have different areas that they need to work on. I hope this helps some. Thanks.